With the new NBA season underway and a lot of shocking results coming about, we're already seeing some rumors swirl surrounding some big names that may hit the trade block in the near future. Of course, this is no different than any other season, with so many major moves happening every year. The 2020s decade so far has been a time where the landscape of trades across the NBA has shifted a ton, and while there have been quite a few deals that worked out well for everyone involved, we've already seen quite a few heavily lopsided trades go down that look worse and worse as time passes. And that brings us to today's video. Today, similar to what we did a few videos ago where we ranked the worst draft picks of the 2020s, we will now be ranking the 10 worst NBA trades made of the 2020s so far. Before we go any further though, I want to thank Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. We're all sports fans here, so I imagine most of you are at least familiar with the concept of sports cards and trading cards and the things of that like. Well, I think Arena Club is the perfect service for all of us here. With their new slab packs, the excitement of ripping packs is back with us, and immediately after opening it, they give you the option to either sell it on the marketplace, flip it or trade it to someone else, or they give you a cash offer instantly based on market value. Or you could just have the card shipped to you like I had with this one right here, as I've been using Arena Club for a while and I can attest to the fact that it's such an easy process. There's a wide range of slab packs that start at just $25, and with all of them there's full transparency with every card that is included potentially in the packs, along with the chance of receiving each card individually, that coming with some chases that are pretty rare, along with a lot more common ones. I recently just opened a Ruby pack myself, and I pulled a nice Manu Ginobili card, and with Manu being one of my favorite players growing up, that was really exciting for me. Now, if this all sounds good to you, you could definitely be next. Go down to the link in my description, which will be arenaclub.com/hoopsreference, and use code hoopsreference at checkout to receive 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase. Once again, thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. We'll be starting at number 10 today and working our way up to the number 1 worst trade of the 2020s. So first up to start here, we have the Quentin Grimes trade to the Philadelphia 76ers, where the Sixers received him and a second-round pick from the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Caleb Martin. You all knew there would be a certain fleecing of the Dallas Mavericks featured in this video, but little did you know that around the same time, a second really bad fleece job went down at their expense as well that doesn't get nearly as much attention. After Nico Harrison shipped out you-know-who, he doubled down on the acquisition of veteran pieces with a proven track record of helping teams make deep playoff runs, so they made this trade, swapping 24-year-old Quentin Grimes for 29-year-old Caleb Martin. Grimes wasn't exactly a sure thing out of the gate during his career, bouncing from the Knicks to the Pistons, then to Dallas, with some up and down play along the way, but during his time on Dallas, he was actually having a very strong season off the bench, scoring about 10 points per game, knocking down 40% of his threes, and helping them actually perform with a better net rating in the minutes that he was on the court. Sure, he was 5 years younger than Martin, with much less playoff experience, but Grimes was showing real signs of blossoming into a helpful secondary scoring threat with real creation skills on the ball. Caleb Martin, on the other hand, was trending in the wrong direction. The 76ers paid him a 4-year contract, hoping his ability to rise in big moments could bolster their rotation after some big moments as a member of the Miami Heat, but his tenure with the 76ers left a lot to be desired in the short amount of time that he was there. He's not much of a volume shooter, his defensive impact was slipping a bit, and he's not a reliable secondary playmaker either, so the Sixers saw the writing on the wall and got off his contract less than a year after paying him, and from that point forward, Philadelphia has been reaping nothing but the benefits, while Dallas has gotten pretty much nothing. Caleb Martin finished last season in Dallas averaging just 5 points per game, shooting 39% from the field and 25% from 3. And this year, he can't even crack the rotation of one of the worst teams in the Western Conference, playing pretty much strictly garbage time minutes and brief cameos. Quentin Grimes, meanwhile, immediately started playing the best basketball of his life as a member of the 76ers, averaging an efficient 22 points per game last season in Philadelphia, and this year, He's one of the NBA's leading bench scorers, averaging about 17 points a night, shooting 48% from the field and 41% from three. The fact that the Mavericks also, for some reason, felt like they had to attach a second-round pick to Grimes in this trade, as if Grimes was the lesser of the two assets, make this trade even funnier to look back on, and it cracks the top 10 worst trades list because of it. Next up, the 9th worst trade of the decade so far is the trade that sent Deni Avdija to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon, Bub Carrington, a first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks going to the Washington Wizards. At the time, this trade really didn't make many people think twice about it, nor did it stir up much of a fuss from the rest of the NBA world. Of course, fans of the Trail Blazers and Wizards themselves were locked into what this deal meant for their respective franchises, but it by no means left the impression that a big fleece was in the making. But a year and a half later, that is exactly what it has become. Avdija's first 3 seasons in the NBA with Washington were, if we're being honest, nothing special. He always had intriguing physical tools as a big strong wing at 6'9", with some promising on-ball skills and an occasionally useful jumper, but he was very raw and inconsistent those years, shooting the ball with subpar efficiency and failing to find ways to assert himself on a regular basis. His 4th season is when some things finally looked like they were clicking for him though, and after the team locked him into a 4-year contract extension worth about $14 million per year starting in 2024, it seemed as though the Wizards found themselves a steal of a talent on a team-friendly contract, but instead, they chose to trade him away before that contract even kicked in, because they thought they were trading him while his value was at its highest, and clearly didn't think his upside was that of an all-star. But that's where they were wrong. Avdija's first season on the Trailblazers last year did start slowly as he was acclimating to his new team and teammates, but once he settled in, he pretty much took control of that group as their #1 option, playing with more confidence and aggression than he ever showed in Washington, and he has not looked back. From the start of January through the end of last season, he was averaging an efficient 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, and now this year, he's leveled up even further, averaging about 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. Meanwhile, Malcolm Brogdon was barely able to stay on the court for Washington last year, and when he was available, he had one of the worst years of his entire career, looking like a complete shell of his former self, and now he's retired. Bub Carrington is still an incredibly raw talent, struggling in his 2nd season so far, and 1 first-round pick just is not enough to keep the balance in a trade for a star in the making. So in the end, the Wizards gave up on Avdija way too early. Next up, the 8th worst trade of the 2020s so far was the New Orleans Pelicans trading up in this year's draft with the Atlanta Hawks in order to select Derek Queen, and they did it by swapping picks with Atlanta and giving Atlanta their unprotected first-round pick in next year's draft. The inclusion of this deal on today's list is not meant to be a representative of how I view Derek Queen as a prospect. This by no means is me labeling Queen as a bust, as a bad player, or anything of the sort, so don't jump to those conclusions. Queen comes into the league as a particularly peculiar prospect, at the very least, with an immense skill set on the offensive end as a big man that is very crafty with the handle, has incredible finishing skills in the paint when he gets to the basket, he's highly impressive with his footwork, and has notable passing skills out of the high post, plus a budding perimeter jumper that has shown signs of life, but it's still pretty inconsistent at the moment. The issues with Queen, however, come on the defensive end, as he very literally tested at the draft combine and ranked as one of the slowest players to ever measure in NBA draft combine history, and that lack of foot speed has made him a target for opposing offenses. The point I'm trying to make is that Queen is still a very good player with plenty of potential to be a highly productive player in the league for many years to come, but he is flawed, and the price that the Pelicans paid for him is certifiably insane no matter how you look at it, especially given the context available to us now to start the year. As I said before, the Pelicans gave up their pick in the 2026 NBA draft to move up and take him, and now the Pelicans are in last place in the West yet again without a pick to even tank for. To make matters worse, the 2026 draft class is arguably more stacked at the top than any other draft this decade, with Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, and Cam Boozer all looking like franchise-altering star prospects that teams could build around. Is Derek Queen worth giving up on that for? More than likely not. Next, the 7th worst trade of the 2020s so far is the deal that sent DeJounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Dyson Daniels, EJ Liddell, Larry Nance Jr., Cody Zeller, and 2 first-round picks. I promise I'm not here to intentionally hate on the Pelicans and antagonize their fans, but what do you want from me? I can't help the fact that these are both pretty bad trades. At the beginning of the summer of 2024, the Hawks were fresh off of a missed playoff appearance, solidifying the fact that they failed in their efforts to build off of their 2021 Conference Finals appearance, which was exactly what they brought DeJounte Murray in to try to do in the first place. The partnership between him and Trae Young clearly did not work, so they shipped him off to New Orleans for a package that at first didn't really seem like a monumental return, but now just a year and a half later, this trade in hindsight saved the Hawks. For starters, they clearly got rid of Murray at the perfect time because last season in New Orleans, DeJounte not only couldn't stay healthy, but when he was on the court, he was one of the worst high-usage players in the whole league, scoring 5 fewer points per game than he did the season before, while shooting just 39% from the field and 29% from 3, and committing 3.5 turnovers per game on top of it. He was no longer the lockdown defender that he once was either, he was just a black hole of inefficiency on both ends of the floor, getting paid $30 million a year for the next 3 years. If Murray were to hit the trade block today, he wouldn't even fetch a single first-round pick in an offer, and yet the Hawks managed to get 2 of them, plus those picks aren't even the biggest highlight of their return. Dyson Daniels was not given the opportunity to shine in New Orleans, but last year in his first season playing next to Trae Young in Atlanta, he exploded on both ends of the floor, winning the Most Improved Player of the Year award, averaging 14 points per game, while also leading the NBA in steals, snagging 3 a night. Daniels legitimately may be the best perimeter defender in the game right now. He was named first team all-defense, and for a Hawks team that at the time desperately needed more force on that end, they addressed one of their biggest needs by getting rid of their worst asset. Next up, the 6th worst trade of the 2020 so far is a deal that sent James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets, which was a 3-team trade between Houston, Brooklyn, and Cleveland, and the full details will be displayed on your screen now. Back in 2021, when this deal went down, the NBA world thought they just watched another unstoppable super team get formed that would reign supreme over the NBA for years to come. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were already teamed up in Brooklyn at that point, and with the Rockets bringing in a supporting cast that Harden clearly thought was insufficient to his goals of trying to win a championship, he essentially forced his way out to make this trio a reality. There's clear incentive for Brooklyn to move forward with this too, obviously, because the amount of firepower that a trio of James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving would bring on the court together could have been at a level the likes of which we've only seen from the all-time great lineups. But unfortunately for them, everything that could have gone wrong with this partnership did go wrong. The Nets put all of their eggs into this basket too, essentially shipping out every single one of their first-round picks for the next 7 years, with 3 picks traded away outright and 4 of them being traded as pick swap options, basically allowing Houston to swap their pick with Brooklyn if Brooklyn's pick is better. There was no plan B. This had to work. But it didn't. The trio of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden played in total 16 games together. You heard me right, just 16 games. Injuries struck Harden and Irving in the playoffs, which leaves many wondering what could have been in that Milwaukee Bucks series where they lost in a tight 7 games, and by next year, things off the floor with Kyrie Irving led to a disgruntled locker room, and James Harden fled before they could even run it back once again, forcing his way out, this time to Philadelphia. To mortgage your entire future for 1 playoff series win and 16 total games of play between the core that you did it for will always be a bad look in hindsight, and that's why it lands on our list today. Next up, the 5th worst trade of the decade so far is the deal that sent Mikal Bridges and a few other pieces from the Brooklyn Nets to the New York Knicks in exchange for Bojan Bogdanovic, Shake Milton, Mamadi Diakite, 5 first-round picks, a pick swap, and a second-round pick. This may not be a trade that necessarily set the Knicks back by going through with it, but it is absolutely one of the most outrageous overpays we've seen in any trade in NBA history. First-round picks have been the backbone backbone of star player trades forever, and they will continue to be moving forward. The amount of picks it takes to move players, though, has become as inflated as the US dollar lately, and this trade can be looked at as a huge reason why. Mikal Bridges is a very good player who has been in the NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns. He's proven he can be effective in a secondary role as a complementary floor spacer with a nice mid-range game and strong defensive impact at his best, and in Brooklyn, he showed he could put up 20 points a night if he needed to. But the reality is that Bridges has never been an all-star caliber talent, and the Knicks coughed up a superstar caliber package for him. 5 first-round picks for a non-all-star is just ludicrous. There's no two ways about it. And for reference, Donovan Mitchell got traded to the Cavaliers for only 3 first-round picks, and while Lauri Markkanen was involved in that Donovan Mitchell trade, he was not the Lauri Markkanen we now know him as at the time. The Knicks pretty much have to win a championship for this price tag to pay off for them, because they are now out of assets to move, and the group they have is what they're going to have to roll with. Next up, the 4th worst trade of the 2020s so far is the deal that sent Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Malik Beasley, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, 4 first-round picks, and a pick swap. So the Mikal Bridges trade further diluted the asking price of trades, but the Rudy Gobert deal was one of the original trades that made the price tag of stars as absurd as they are today. Admittedly, Gobert is such an interesting player to try to put a price tag on because he is a multiple-time All-Star, he's tied for the most Defensive Player of the Year wins in the history of the NBA, he has been a genuine force anchoring the paint for a long time, and yet, at the same time, he's not the type of star player who has the type of skill set that can be the best player on a team, aka he's not a very effective scorer when the shots that he puts up are not generated for him by teammates around the basket. His severe lack in skill on the offensive end has proven to be a bit of a liability at times come playoff time, and if the draft capital was the primary return of this trade for him, then it would look a lot more justifiable, even if it is a lot of future value to unload. But the fact that there is also a ton of quality talent amongst the players involved in this trade too makes this a deal that just goes way over the top. Walker Kessler is one that sticks out as someone who may not be quite at the level of Gobert at his prime, but in his young NBA career so far, Kessler has already established himself as one of the best shot blockers in the game, while also arguably being more skilled scoring-wise. Malik Beasley may be dealing with some legal issues now, but over the last few years he was still one of the league's hottest sharpshooters. Jared Vanderbilt is no slouch when he's healthy, and Patrick Beverley still had a few years left in the tank when this deal went down as well. The Timberwolves have ultimately been pretty successful with Gobert in the middle, making the conference finals 2 years in a row now, so I'm not saying that this was an abject failure of a trade, but even if the player you trade for proves to be helpful, it doesn't always justify the ridiculous price you paid for it. Next up, the 3rd worst trade of the 2020s so far was the deal that sent Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic in exchange for Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 4 first-round picks, and a pick swap. The Bane trade is in the same tier as the Mikal Bridges trade, where a non-all-star got dealt for the price that should only be warranted for established top-tier talent. Bane is, of course, a very good player who came into the NBA viewed as an off-ball shooter and has developed into much more as a creator on the ball that can score quite a bit when given the opportunity. His story is also similar to Mikal Bridges in that his best scoring numbers came when his team was pretty depleted and tanking, so the numbers were objectively pretty hollow, coming in mostly losses leading to his squad to the bottom of the standings. I'm of course talking about 2024, when Ja Morant was out for all but 9 games, the Grizzlies stunk, and Bane posted his career high in scoring that year. The Magic had a clear motive to acquire someone with his skill set, but as I have been saying all summer since this trade went down, I feel as though the Magic's focus has been in the wrong place. The Magic were the worst 3-point shooting team last year and one of the worst ranked offenses, but But they don't just need a three-point shooter scoring threat to fix that. The root of their issue is that they lack playmakers that can generate quality looks for the shooters to then in turn improve the efficiency based on better shot quality. Bane is an improved playmaker overall, but that's not a role that he's necessarily comfortable or natural in, and now I'm not as surprised that the beginning of his tenure with the Magic so far this season has been rocky. Bane is averaging just 15 points per game so far this year, which is the fewest he has averaged since his rookie season, and he's also shooting worse from three than he ever has, making just 30% of his shots from deep. It's not that he just forgot how to shoot overnight, it's an inherent issue with the Magic's offensive scheme, and a lack of facilitators at the point guard position to run an efficient offense. So the Magic not only drastically overpaid in this trade, they also used up their assets on a player that doesn't even necessarily address their weakness. Next up, the second worst trade of the 2020s so far is the deal that sent Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets to the Phoenix Suns. This was a 4-team deal with a lot going on, so the full details will be on your screen now, but the focus includes Phoenix giving up Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first-round picks, and a pick swap to make it happen. We've discussed quite a bit in this video about how monstrous offers like this should at least be done for bona fide stars, and Kevin Durant does at the very least check that box. But unfortunately, things can still blow up in your face in spite of that, as Phoenix has come to learn the hard way. The Suns at the time felt like they were so close to getting over the hump after making it to the NBA Finals in 2021, but when they fell in the second round of the playoffs in 2022, they got scared that the team's window was closing, so they made this all-in move to try to get back into the mix. What they came to find out, however, is that depleting all of your depth for a star is not a foolproof method like it was in the 2010s when the Miami Heat were doing it, and Durant's tenure with Phoenix would only provide one single playoff series win in 3 years. Durant was objectively still performing at a superstar level, but after unloading their entire future to bring him in, and eventually Bradley Beal, they couldn't round out the roster in any kind of meaningful way, and they went from being eliminated in the second round in 2023, to getting swept in the first round of the playoffs in 2024, to missing the playoffs entirely last season in 2025. Also, because of the fact that they traded away pretty much all of their first round picks in the coming years, the current Phoenix Suns in the present right now can't even fully commit to a rebuild, because they don't even have their own draft pick, meaning that tanking would be all for nothing, and that has forced them into the worst spot in the NBA, which is, of course, the realm of purgatory, not good enough to accomplish anything significant, but not bad enough to land a top prospect in the draft. And finally, coming in at number 1 on this list of worst trades of the 2020s, we, of course, have the deal that swapped Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis between the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers. This was a 3-team deal that also included the Jazz, but the meat of it saw Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris go to Los Angeles, and Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick went to Dallas. What can I say about this deal that hasn't already been said a million times? The Mavericks were fresh off of an appearance in the NBA Finals, which was pretty much entirely sparked by Luka Doncic as the engine that made that franchise run, and they then turned and offloaded a 25-year-old superstar offensive juggernaut in order to bring in a 30-year-old injury-prone sidekick in Anthony Davis, who has never at any point in his career proven he could be a 1A on a contender. General manager Nico Harrison grossly miscalculated how much his philosophy of defense wins championships matters when the defenders that you prioritize can't stay on the court, and the offense also suffers drastically because there's no one to carry the load anymore. He overreacted to 1 year where Doncic sustained some unfortunate injuries and may have been a bit out of shape briefly while trying to work his way back from those injuries, but to trade someone like Doncic, who has been more productive than arguably any 25-year-old in the history of the NBA, to make what he called an all-in move that actually ended up making them the worst team in the West, makes this a clear choice for the number 1 spot today. Nico Harrison is now fired because of this trade, the Mavericks have a painfully old and washed up roster, and luckily they were gifted Cooper Flagg in the draft this year, because without him to shape their rebuild around, they would actually have no hope at all. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these trades in hindsight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.